What is up, Coaster fans, and welcome back to the Coaster Rundown, Episode 4. My name is Cole, aka Park Pros, and I'm joined as always by my buddy Jack, aka Coaster John. Jack, how we doing this week?
I'm doing great, Cole. How about you?
I'm doing good, man, and we have a lot of interesting kind of
A
highs
lot to
and
talk
lows
about, yeah.
from the coaster industry this week, so let's jump right into it. Starting off with our headlining story, on Monday, we got the news that I think just about everyone was expecting to come eventually. It started out with Busch Gardens Tampa announcing that Iron Gwazi will be opening in March of 2022. We finally have a date for that. Then a couple hours later, we had SeaWorld coming out and announcing shortly after that Icebreaker's opening will also be delayed until February 2022. Now, we haven't heard from SeaWorld San Diego yet about Emperor's opening status, and Busch Gardens Williamsburg came out on Monday as well, saying to expect an update about Pantheon within, a couple weeks. But it seems like all signs are pointing to those projects opening in 2022 as well. Jack, we speculated about this last episode, but now that these rides are basically officially being delayed once again, what are your thoughts on all this?
I mean, it's kind of like good news, bad news. I mean, it's good news that the park chain is finally being transparent about these rides and not just actively ignoring the fact that they exist. It's been, just the question that we've all been asking for months now of, when are these rides going to open? Everybody's been referring to them as lawn ornaments. They're just sitting there and, the parks are just acting like they're not even there. And so, like I said, it's nice to see that, Busch Gardens Tampa, SeaWorld Orlando, corporate SeaWorld is all starting to be, transparent now, and they have official opening dates, which is good. Obviously, it stinks that it's, delayed yet another year, and, hopefully they have certain kinds of, discounts or perks for former, people with memberships and passes and stuff. It's going to be a full 2 years now after Iron Gwazi was supposed to open. It's going to be March of 2020. I went there in March of 2020 and saw it and started testing a few days later. And, so it's been really that long waiting for it. And, the wait is definitely going to be worth it. And I'm super excited for it. And then, of course, you got Icebreaker, too, which is going to be, a solid coaster as well for SeaWorld Orlando, because, that'll be their only launch coaster. And, but it's definitely going to be worth the wait. And, I'm excited for it. So it's, like I said, it's good news, bad news. It's good news that, they're finally telling us about it, but it's bad news that we got to wait a little bit longer, but it'll be worth it.
Busch Gardens Tampa at least came out and said that anyone that purchased a pass, a season pass past, I think, like September of 2019, they're going to set up days that people can come in and ride Iron Gwazi. I hope they have those established, well beyond, just a couple days before for people like us who are traveling from, way out of town for these attractions. But like you said, it's just nice to get some transparency, not pretending like these rides don't exist anymore, and finally having kind of an expectation date for, when these attractions will open, so we can, plan in the future to get out and ride these rides. So good on SeaWorld. It seemed like there was a little pressure from the parks individually to finally get an answer from corporate. And it seemed like corporate finally kind of had to succumb to that and crumble and come out with these dates. I'm sure that corporate probably would have liked to hold this out as long as they possibly could until those attendance numbers started to hold off a little bit.
I mean, corporate had already waited so long as it is. I'm just glad that they finally, kind of gave the individual parks the go-ahead to be like, all right, finally you can open it now. But yeah, it is good and bad news. So it's, it's definitely something we're looking forward to. But on to some bad news here. Last week, Top Thrill Dragster closed for the foreseeable future because of a dangerous incident which occurred near the ride. Now, a metal piece of the ride fell off and actually struck a woman in the back of her head while she was standing in line. Unfortunately, that woman is still in the hospital and in critical condition, which is why Dragster is still going to be closed for a while. And there's other damage to the ride as well, as apart from that one little piece of metal that fell off the ride. But, it's definitely, a concerning situation for all parties involved. But Cole, what do you think this means for the park, Dragster, and the amusement industry as a whole?
Yeah, well, first off, best wishes to the woman, her family.
Absolutely.
Everyone in the coaster community is thinking of you guys. The prayers are for you guys. So first and foremost, we hope that you make a full recovery and that, this isn't a lasting injury for you. But second of all, yeah, the park announced that Dragster is going to be down for the remainder of 2021, which is pretty significant news. Where my head goes to, Jack, is this the end of Dragster? Like, is there a chance that this could be the last time we ever see Top Thrill Dragster run? In my head, they've just had so many issues with it. It's not a record breaker anymore. I mean, is there like at least a 10% chance that they just close Dragster altogether, and just
I
avoid the headaches going forward?
It's a really fair point, Cole. I mean, I think that anytime a ride like this has some sort of incident like that, that obviously goes through the park management's head of, is it worth it? Like what's the sacrifice here if we, close this down? Like, can we, redeem ourselves or, build something better here? I think that's definitely like running through everyone's heads there, park management. I mean, I really hope not. It's so good. Like it's such a good ride. It's got plenty of problems. However, it is a really fair point because this was definitely a very serious incident. They're going to be looking at a big lawsuit, and it's just, it's definitely a concerning future for Dragster.
Right, and maybe not even to go to the extreme of saying that it closes forever. Maybe Intamin comes in and does, an extensive rehaul of the launch system.
That'd be nice.
Maybe the trains. Maybe just get out all the kinks and little things that have made this such a nightmare to operate in its almost 20-year existence now. So, again, prayers to the family involved. We hope, we make a full recovery. But I think Cedar Point might have a little bit of soul searching to do with, the future of Dragster going forward. So that'll definitely be something to keep an eye on going forward. So on to some more news in the Cedar Fair chain. About 2 weeks ago, we got the official news from King's Dominion that they will be opening Tumbili, an SNS 40 free spin to replace the area formerly occupied by the crypt in the newly rethemed Jungle Expedition area of the park. So for this project, Katie opted to go with the smaller model of the 40 free spin, which I think is a clone of what we saw at Adventureland, opening with Dragon Slayer this past summer. Tumbili will have a max height of 112 feet and spans 770 feet of track. Jack, this is something we knew that was happening for a while now. So now that it's official, what are your thoughts on the name, the theme, and this kind of being phase one of revitalizing that area of the park, which kind of really has endless potential like we've mentioned before?
Yeah, I think I mentioned in a previous episode that I was really in the mindset that this was going to be some kind of jungle themed, like exotic attraction. Obviously, we'd already seen all the supports and they looked like bamboo. And honestly, I think this is a pretty cool theme, and I've from what I've heard, the name Tumbili, it's Swahili for monkey. So it's also like, and when I first heard the name too, it got me thinking about like the word like tumble and like spinning around. I think it's a pretty cool theme, like really cool name, very fitting. And it's nice to see it. It's actually really refreshing to see a 40 free spin like this, like Dragon Slayer, with an actually like original theme as opposed to Six Flags, which just slaps on DC theming, like, Joker, Batman, whatever. Right. It's gotten very just drawn out and generic and boring. But this is, like almost like kind of refreshing. And obviously it's not like the crazy, huge, insane edition that, everyone's hoping for, but it's almost like kind of just a new coaster, like for the meantime for the park, because obviously it's replacing a flat ride. Now it's another credit at the park, so it's going to be nice. And I don't think there's any free spin anywhere in like Virginia or the Mid-Atlantic or anything like that, so it's pretty original to that area. So I think it's a slam dunk for the park, and I'm excited to see what the extent of the theming is as well. But I do really love the name, and I think it's going to be a really great addition for the park.
Yeah, to that point, I do hope they follow through with a lot of the theming. And from what I've heard, these kind of smaller models, for people that have been on Dragon Slayer, apparently the experience is a lot more hectic. Like, you get a lot more spins. It's a lot crazier than the Six Flags models, the more larger models. So hopefully that turns out to be the case. And yeah, I think this is just a solid step one for this park in trying to fill out that area of the park that definitely needs a big refurb over the next, 4 to 5 years probably. So good first step, and we'll have to see what comes next. I'm sure we'll be getting into rumors about this time next year for that park as well. So
yeah, definitely. And so on to some other news about another, small scale spinning coaster. This is kind of more local East Coast news, a little bit more relevant for me, not as much for you in the Midwest. It's the fact that Casino Pier has finally opened their new for 2021 SBF Visa hamster wheel coaster called Xolo Loca. The ride seemed like it finished construction earlier this summer, like I think in like late June. But as we know, New Jersey has some pretty strict like amusement park laws. So I believe that they were, waiting inspections and clearances from the state. So given that, unfortunately, only part of the ride is open right now. Only the normal SBF spinning cars, which just spin like normal, like 360, while the hamster wheel rollover cars, the ones that spin, I guess, 360 the other way, like up and over yourself, those cars are still closed, unfortunately. So those two are the lead cars, the two hamster wheel cars. SBF Visa is definitely stepping up their game with this model, and I've heard good things. I've never been on one, but I've been super excited about it. But I know, at least for me, I'm going to wait until those cars are open. Cole, what do you think about this partial opening?
Yeah, the FBS Visa has kind of been the staple of, kind of like these boardwalk parks and, FECs across the country when it comes to just a cheap attraction that, isn't necessarily like the biggest thrilling ride, but you get a lot of bang for your buck with it. And to kind of see like these new wrinkles of this model where it's like a little bit of an extended layout from the original, and now we get things like the hamster wheel kind of going in. I think they have a lot of opportunities to kind of be innovative with that and continue to basically dominate the market of these smaller parks that can't afford an Intamin or a B&M, and continue to offer affordable attractions to these smaller parks. So it is cool to see this park. It's a park I've been to. It's pretty nice. It's cool to see them expand, and looking forward to seeing what else SBF Visa is capable with these kind of smaller compact coaster models. So for our last story of today, we go back to the SeaWorld chain, where alongside the news of these 2022 coasters kind of being delayed, we actually got an announcement from SeaWorld San Antonio that they'll be opening a ride called Tidal Surge in 2022. Tidal Surge is going to be the world's largest S&S screaming swing, taking riders up 135 feet high in the air at 68 miles per hour and having a capacity of 40 riders per train. Jack, for me, the screaming swings are right up there with, the Giga Discoveries in terms of my favorite and probably the best flat rides out there. What do you think of this addition for SeaWorld San Antonio?
Well, I don't know if I would go that far to compare them to Giga Discoveries. I've ridden Wonder Woman: A Great Adventure so much, like I really love those. Those are really intense. However, Screamin' Swings, they're a little bit quicker, and they do offer a similar sensation, obviously, of swinging back and forth. And I think it's a home run for the park. And honestly, the more I think about it, the more I feel like SeaWorld San Antonio has just been like kind of the lucky park of the chain, even though it's kind of like it seems like it's like kind of like the black sheep of the chain, where it's like kind of a weird park. At least from when I was there, it had a weird vibe. But they're the ones that had Texas Stingray open right before COVID, so they haven't had to deal with these 2022 delays, and now they're going to get another attraction as well.
Yeah, and it was dug up a little while ago that Busch Gardens Tampa was planning a ride like this. I think either right before or right after Iron Gwazi kind of got unearthed. So this might have been the case where this was Busch Gardens Tampa's ride, and just because SeaWorld San Antonio, had a coaster open in 2020 before, the world went down, and then, they haven't gotten anything in 2 years now, where Busch Gardens Tampa is opening this brand new, shiny roller coaster in 2022. SeaWorld San Antonio might have just been the beneficiary of having that ride move over, so they get something new for the first time in 2 years now. So
yeah, exactly, and it is pretty good news for the park chain too, because I'm not sure how many more they of these that they have. I mean, they're pretty good rides. The only one that I've been on in a SeaWorld park is Busch Gardens Williamsburg's Finnegan Flyers, which is a pretty great ride. It's in the Ireland section of the park, and it fits pretty well. And they usually incorporate these rides with either like some sort of like cliff or water feature, and I believe SeaWorld San Antonio is going to be doing the same, where this is going to be hanging off the water, and kind of gives riders the sensation that they're going to fall into the water. And it's definitely a solid ride, and it's good to see that the park is the park chain is trying to add these thrilling flat rides at all their parks.
That's it for this week's Coaster News. Thank you guys for tuning in to episode 4 of the Coaster Rundown. Jack, you got anything you want to plug this week?
Yeah, I got a Holiday World park review and vlog coming up. Kind of a recap of Hollywood Nights and my whole thoughts on Holiday World. That's going to be coming out this week. So stay tuned for that on my channel.
Yeah, and I have a recap of my Michigan's adventure trip coming out, so make sure to stay tuned. Subscribe to this channel, subscribe to Jack's channel. Thank you guys for tuning in to this week's Coaster Rundown, and we'll see you next week.